Jeremy White Podcast. Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
The Jeremy White Podcast.
With BOUSTAN. For the best Lebanese cuisine in Montreal, it's got to be BOUSTAN. Visit boustan.ca.
And loudtracks.com. Helping fans connect to their favourite artists. 100% high quality, officially licensed band merchandise that supports the artists you love. Visit our official band merch store at loudtracks.com. Watch the Jeremy White Podcast exclusively on YouTube.
Joel, right off the bat, let me ask you a super top 40 radio question. How did you come up with the album title?
Running games. The songs were all basically written like all over the world, traveling, touring. So a lot of it was just about that, and so that seemed to be the common theme lyrically amongst the songs. So anyway, I rolled with it as an album title, and then I wrote the title track actually after the fact. So I felt like it needed something to tie it all together at the end, and so yeah, that acoustic song at the end came together last.
Did that happen a lot on the album? Did you write a title first, like a catchy title, and then you kind of wrote around that?
I usually, when I write these songs, have a chorus. I usually do, I guess, chorus out, right? So I'll just be riffing, and then for me, it's always a bit much right on the spot to be like, and let me write the verse lyrics right now. It's more about like, let me just get the song going. I'll sing a little melody for whatever the verse, pre-chorus, bridge, that thing. But the chorus is usually a chorus.
Yeah. So as a guitar player, it's interesting that you start with the title and the chorus first, and then kind of work backwards, because usually it's the opposite.
I mean, there's sometimes where a riff starts it. There's no, like, 100% of the time. I'll be riffing with the guitar, but yeah, I find it really hard to not sing a bit while I'm riffing, right? So for me, I guess the song itself would start with the chorus. There are times where the riffs are kind of happening first-ish. It's not like an exact thing every time. Like, let me sit down and write a chorus. I'm riffing on guitar, but I'll sing a chorus with the riff.
Writing a chorus, like it's.
Let me ask you this, because these songs are obviously on your record. Are these songs that you write specifically for yourself, or do you bring them to David Coverdale and Whitesnake or other bands, and then you go, okay, it's not for this project, let me go finish them later? How do you sort of differentiate between pile A and pile B, main gig, side gig, or if you want?
Yeah, so they're usually, I'll usually stick them in categories, label them on my iPhone, like if I just do a quick voice memo, if I write something. So like I said, most of these were written going about touring. If I told you for each one, it would be like an insane geography lesson, right? I mean, they're all over the world. So I'll pretty much know, all right, so this will fit in with Joel Hoekstra's 13 album. So I definitely think about the personnel. I mean, you got Vinny Appice on there and Russell Allen. So I like to obviously have that Dio edge for the heavier stuff. It just makes sense with who's working with me, and it's stuff that I grew up on and love that stuff. And then I also love that kind of more melodic, bluesier, like Foreigner kind of thing. And so that tends to be, that's the best I can describe this stuff, is melodic hard rock, Dio-ish at its heaviest, Foreigner-ish at its lightest. And there's times where other influences like poke their head out of the sand, like I was a big Queensryche fan growing up, and there's little moments where you'd be like, oh, yes, I hear a little bit of Queensryche there.
Well, I hear Dio in Finish Line. I hear that first. You're doing like a melody line or a Dio part, and then you just add a little flourish. It goes, no, hey, I'm not copying anything. It's kind of, which is kind of,
yeah, that one's as Dio-ish as this stuff has ever gotten, but it's I mean, look, I feel like just wear my influences on my sleeve a little bit. What's the harm in that? That music is 40 years old now at this point. Let's fucking rock, man. Who cares?
That's what I'm fresh as anything to like.
Sorry about my language.
No, we're good. I mean, Jeremy's not 30 yet, so he might be a little bit offended.
I'm so offended by your language. I happen to have my young brother here with me, and I don't appreciate the kind of.
But all right, so let me get into the singing, because you do sing and you do provide background vocals when you're on stage. Why bring in Russell and Jeff? Why not be the lead singer and really be a solo project?
I mean, for me, I feel like I'd rather make a great album, and I'm not a great singer. So for me, it's like, at the end of the day, I want to just release a great album. So to me, that's more important than whether or not my ego is satisfied by being the singer, right? Or being like, I'm going to be the front guy. It's like, I just want to have a great. That was from the beginning with this. When I put out Dying to Live in 2015, the intent was to just write a rock album, and just a solid rock album, not like a progressive, not trying to prove anything with like 2-minute guitar solos or 3-minute guitar solos, but just a solid rock album, but be the guy who gets to kind of call the shots, right? Be the guy who writes the songs and gets to say how the mix should be and all that. So, but just have it sound like a band. And that's where this is really different than a solo album, right? It's like if I said it's a solo album, people think, oh, he's singing, or oh, he's playing, it's an instrumental album. With this, it's like it sounds like a band, but it's not a band because I write everything, including the lyrics and the vocal melodies. So I do sing the entire album really, really poorly for Russell. I mean, I lay down a guide vocal of me singing the whole album, and then he listens to it and probably laughs in private. Maybe plays it for his closest friends, and they have a laugh at my expense. And then he
There's the
sings
deluxe box set at some point, but go ahead. He sings.
And then he sings the entire record. And then my style with all these guys, because obviously I'm doing the writing, is just to stay hands off with the production. So if Russ wants to tweak something, if he's like, I don't really like the way that's phrased, or this would lay better in terms of like actually singing it, he just does it, and I don't care. That's great.
You this, and I want to take over because you're talking about it's a band, and it's just, you're setting it up as a band. Is that something you have to be conscious with, in a sense, with, David Coverdale's not going to go on forever. He's going to retire. Cher's not going to go on forever. She's going to retire. And you're still going to be younger and still needing to work. Do you need to start setting up getting the table ready for that eventuality?
No, I mean, I'm setting this up as a project, not really as a band. That's hence the name. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird name. It's like, well, what is that? Joel Hoekstra's 13, right? Why not just call it Joel Hoekstra? Well, I told you why, because it's not a guitar album. I'm not singing. Sounds like a band, but I'm doing all the writing, so it's not a band, right? So these guys would be like, hey, what's the deal? You're giving this a band name, and we didn't get to do any of that. So the project name made the most sense. So that's where this lives. Now, we did do one live show on the Monsters of Rock cruise in support of Dying to Live, so I'm not ruling out like some kind of like, hey, this can go out on the road and do a little something. Sure, maybe.
But are you at a point where you have to start thinking about the future? Because I would think that Cher and David Coverdale are 10 years and less. And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but
my mind always just kind of ticks in the moment. And my whole thing is to be productive every day and then just kind of follow where life leads me. That's how you end up doing weird stuff like being in Cher's band or being on Broadway and Rock of Ages anyway, right? I mean, I was not 11 years old sitting playing Black Sabbath riffs going, someday I'm going to be in Cher's band. But like somehow you end up, life can take you to strange places when you just do your best every day with everything that life presents to you, right? So if somebody, gives me, I mean, I'm doing the best I can in this interview, right? It's the same way that
we're so hard to deal with.
You guys are. You're incredibly difficult people. I mean, I hope you understand how hard this is for me to have to deal with you. But just to get through, I guess, everything that's presented to me the best I can, it allows life to kind of take you to these places, is my point. So being too specific and going like, when you're saying, are you thinking about the future, being like, so this is my plan 5 years from now when there's no more white, I'm not doing that. I'm just like doing the best I can. And life has a funny way of providing, if you stay true to working hard and doing the best you can. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll be like totally screwed and I'll be like, Mitch was right. I should have had a plan, damn it.
No, but I mean,
I don't know, man.
No, because I just look around at Richie Faulkner and at Nita Strauss and at all these people that are in these bands that are on the verge of retiring, and you're like, where's the next step? And
I mean, I have no idea. I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, that could maybe lead to the downturn of our scene, or it could make people like us, the people that were the additions or replacement player people, more valuable down the road. I have no idea. It could be either one.
Hoekstra's Whitesnake, brought to you.
No. Don't go there. Don't go there. DC is the only one, man. Don't even go there, man.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Let me talk also in the marketing of this, because you look at the press release and it says Joel Hoekstra, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and Whitesnake, the CHER is not mentioned at all. Is that something that you don't want rock fans to know? Is it, I don't want to say is embarrassing, but like, why not just say, hey, he's in these 3 major projects?
No, I debated about that a little bit. I put that together. I mean, they had me put it together and they didn't say anything to me about it. And I kind of just thought, how it gets a little obnoxious sometimes when you see these people with like, 8 bands after their name. And it was like, maybe I should just kind of limit what it is. I mean, look, are CHER fans going to buy this album? Probably not. It's mainly going to be like Whitesnake fans that buy this album, most likely. And TSO fans too. TSO fans are hard rock fans. So, I mean, that's just, I guess, from my... There you go. There's the thinking, right? Try to avoid having like the 8 bands and here are my 97 credits after my name, right? I mean, just where do you draw the line?
Can you guys hear me? Because I'm having some weird technical issues on my side today.
Yeah, I can hear you right now.
I saw that picture pop up. It was most impressive.
Oh, thanks.
I know.
But we're back to the live shot. Yes.
Well, let me ask you, talking about the CHER thing, it's interesting. So, and you're a good guy to ask this question to, because I work in top 40 radio. Okay. And then I do this podcast talking to guys like you and the rock guys and stuff.
Right.
Do you get any flack from any fans questioning your legitimacy? Saying, oh, he's, he loves Dio and he plays in Whitesnake, but he's playing in, that pussy music, CHER. Like that's not rock and roll. That's not metal. Like, do fans give you shit for that?
I've seen a couple of them, but it doesn't matter to me, man. One of the best things that ever happened to me was when I got out of GIT, right, in 1991 or whatever, back when the shred scene was alive and well, was Nirvana hit. And it was 1992, I guess, and I was like, boom. And so all the, like, hey, I built up my chops as a kid, that all just became kind of like pointless. And so it launched this career for me of having to do anything and everything to be valuable as a guitar player. And that made me a better musician. So at the end of the day, man, people can say whatever they want. It's about being a good musician and being about the music. And so and that does involve playing different styles as far as I'm concerned. And
dude, I mean, you go from being on stage and playing a song like If I Could Turn Back Time, which is equally as rocking as any Whitesnake song.
Yeah. I'll agree. Go on.
Go to play Still of the Night. It's like, I think it totally works.
Well, as I said, life can surprise you with these things, right? I mean, there's times where you're like, wow, really? Okay, cool. I'm going to do this. For me, I actually really enjoyed playing the CHER set because there was just decades of material that you'd pull from in that. So there was all these different styles. I mean, the Waka Chaka disco, to playing R&B stuff. So for me, that was great. And it gives me an opportunity to show people like, hey, look, I had to do a lot of different things coming up in my career. I wasn't just like a guy who became famous at 21 years old and sold 5 million albums and like, now I can just rest on my laurels because I'm who I am. For me, it was a totally different path. It was this path of like grinding and struggling as a guitar player and then having things suddenly just open up like later in my life, which was amazing and is great. But I still feel very much like I'd be just totally full of shit if I denied the fact that I'm a working musician. Like I feel like I've always been a creative, artistic person too. It's not like I'm saying, I'm all about the gig, man. Like I definitely enjoy like being an artist and being a creative individual as well. But I think there's a lot of people that fall in that category that have trouble like putting it all together and actually being able to make a living and get somewhere with it, right? When we're all young, there's like a gazillion people that are like, man, it's all about the art, man. That dude's a sellout, right? And like, and that's great. But all those people are like fucking working at Ford now, or whatever. It's like, so... At some point in time, you got to be like, all right, yeah, I got to figure out a way to balance this. And for me, that was, teaching and playing gigs, and it still is. I'm teaching right now and doing sessions for people. There's no shows. I mean,
well, yeah. So how do you adjust in this current climate? Because I'm assuming touring with CHER and touring with Whitesnake puts bread on the table. So now what are you doing? Like, are you in a panic mode yet, or are you like, nah, I'm good. I'm fine.
I mean, do you think prostitution is panic? I mean, that
Could be.
No, I basically, what I was talking about. I mean, I'm teaching 30 students a week one-on-one right now. I'm doing master classes for like Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp and some other outlets, and cameos, lots of those. I'd say 10, 15 a week, and sessions. I tend to have about 3 or 4 a week for people.
Oh wow.
I do solos on people's stuff, and so that stuff. Obviously, the album obviously doesn't it doesn't take away money per se, but having that, and then I guess some of these other things are just kind of for kicks, doing these quarantine videos with Dino Jalusic, and I've done a bunch of those along the way this year. So that's more or less just to enjoy a little bit of relevance and a little bit of, I guess, your pulse rate will go up 2 notches because there's a new video of you online, and like, what are people going to say, right? So it's, man, just as long as I'm being productive and moving forward, I think that's what this whole thing is all about, and the story of my life, and that's the only way I know how to go about doing this, and that's what got me where I am, man. I went from being just this guy in a suburban Chicago town from a pretty poor family growing up, where I'm not supposed to be doing any of this stuff,
Right.
just simply by never stopping, and just by like always gigging, and like, I've had a lot of weird gigs, man. I mean, if I told you my full life story, I mean, do you guys know that I was the bass player for the Turtles? And I did that, and was playing Happy Together, singing the backgrounds. I mean, there's a strange story for me compared to most, like, hey,
Kathy Richardson of Jefferson Starship Airplane, and let me ask you this: in terms of your style, when you come to do Joel Hoekstra's 13, you come to do Whitesnake. Is it just Joel's guitar playing, or do you approach it differently? Do you pick out different guitars? Do you string them? I mean, is it I'm Joel and this is how I play, or do you adjust and adapt for every project? Oh, Joel.
Summarize.
Oh, there you are. Are you there?
Yeah. You have me still?
We do. Did you hear the last question?
Okay. Yes, I did.
Connection breaks. My microphone is all fritzy today. It's a great interview so far.
And the old man who's got the shit microphones has the best fucking technology. It's fantastic.
So I would say I adapt for every project. I mean, there's got to be guidelines when you go into this stuff. I mean, and that for me, it starts with the personnel on this, right? Like who I'm playing with, and like, do I want to like go, hey, let's do a funk song? Like, no, we're not. It's Russell Allen and his Vinny Appice, and like, come on, we're gonna rock. We're gonna play some hard rock here, and hopefully make it melodic along the way. So there's definitely guidelines, and that's partially me, and that's partially the label as well. I mean, they wanted me to hone, to focus the sound a little bit better on this one compared to Dying to Live. Dying to Live was, I'm really proud of that record. I think there's a lot of cool stuff on there, but it kind of became what it became as it went. So I was like, I'm going to be really heavy. I mean, I had like a bonus track that was like on the fringe of being like, it was gang vocals and Super Killer Be Killed. And then there was all the way to like a song like What We Believe that was almost alternative. And, so there was a wide variety in that, which I happen to love myself. I mean, I love records that are all over the map, that are like, hey, every song is completely different. But unfortunately, I'm way in the minority with that, man. I mean, I think, which I get, like if you're going to release like 2 singles off an album, you kind of want to be able to like, tell people like, hey, this is what you can expect on this album.
Yeah.
So
recognize the album and the sound of it.
So when you're asking if this record is how I play, well, I'm trying to stay within certain guidelines, right? I think we always are. Everybody is that makes these records. So you'd probably get the same answer from everybody on that, truthfully. But I think the only difference is I've probably kicked around and played a lot of different styles compared to maybe most, for reasons I mentioned. Desperation. Getting me to this point, man. I've done a lot of stuff, definitely. I mean, for a while there, I was in a hip hop band, and we were opening for The Roots and opening for Ludacris and Kanye West. I mean, can you imagine that I was on a bill like that ever in your life? It sounds weird, right? And
really, if you're a good musician, you can do it all.
I've put out, my instrumental fusion records, and I was in acid jazz bands along the way. I used to sit on bass in a Motown, like doo-wop band in the Chicago area. I've done a lot of gigs, man.
When is the Black Death Metal album coming out?
I used to sing. I sang without playing guitar in a thrash band called Fear Itself in the Chicago area. So there's, I think, maybe one tape that exists somewhere in my world, which I need to locate, of me doing that. But it was very Pantera, and it was me just singing, not playing, no guitar.
Hey, Joel, let me ask you, playing in Whitesnake, is there a lot of competition between you and Reb Beach? Because
no, no, man.
Like when you go down to your knees during a show, does Reb ever look over and say, "Could you just stand up"?
Yeah,
really?
Is there
stand the fuck up?
You ever do that? All the poses, all the moves, and everything. Like, does Reb look on the other side of the stage after the show, say, like, dude, like, can you tone it down enough?
Stand the fuck up.
I mean, he probably would love it, but we're good. I mean, Reb and I are not really like competitive.
Competitive.
No, we're not competitive. I would say that no, we just do the gig, man. Reb's a pretty easygoing, very funny guy, super talented.
Yep.
He's great to play rhythms with, and I don't mean that in any knock on his lead playing. Everybody knows Reb's like a really great lead player, but he's really tight with his rhythms, and we do enjoy that about each other, that we lock on the riffs real tight. He's a great background vocalist in the band as well. I mean, he sings really well. These are the things that people don't know about Reb. I don't mean to it's no slight on his chops, and he's awesome, but
that Black Swan record he did with Pilson and Macaulay was fantastic.
Well, dude, that was your favorite album of 2020, wasn't it?
It was my favorite album of 2020.
I saw that. I actively follow you.
That might be a mistake.
I'm always seeing what you're tweeting and what's going on.
And that's why it hacked. Because you
Jeff Pilson and I were texting the other day, and I congratulated him on that. I said, "Hey, that's great. I saw that Mitch Lafon said the Black Swan record is his favorite of 2020."
It was.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I only saw the
Joel was playing on the record, but
duh. No, I mean, come on, man. All good. You guys are stirring up controversy. Come on.
Oh, no, we're not. But let me just quickly, since we're on the Whitesnake thing, the Blues album is coming out shortly. Did you have a chance to go in there and add some muscle to it, like you did on the rock album and on the what was it, love album, love songs?
The red, white, and now we're on the blue.
Right.
So the way that's working is that David had that record called Restless Heart that was out years ago,
fantastic record.
Yes, so I went in and ruined that. No.
Look at that. There you go. Love songs. Beautiful.
So David wanted to do a reimagining on Restless Heart. So he had Derek Sherinian add keys, and he had me basically double what Adrian did with the Les Paul and add some overdubs. And so there's a remix of that I think the whole thing is being released at some point. But on these compilation records, there's been a little taste of that on there. So I'm a very tiny part of the compilation releases.
Okay, so you're not on Here I Go Again and Is It Love? You didn't do the whole thing.
No, that's just John Sykes remixed on there. That's all that is.
Oh, okay.
The mix on that, because it sounds super fresh, like almost like as if they were re-recorded parts. And so Chris did a really great job doing it. And he also did your record, so I guess there's a similarity in sound in a way,
Yeah, Chris has a definite style that you can hear. So I think he was recommended to me by Jeff Pilson, really. Jeff. So going back to Jeff recommended Chris to me, and I thought he did a great job on Dying to Live and did a great job on Running Games. And having him on for the Whitesnake stuff has been really great. I'm sure he's happy. David's had him super, super busy. Very talented guy, and he doesn't have such a big ego that he won't work with me in terms of what it is that I want to hear, right? Sometimes mix engineers get to the point where like, take it or leave it, dude. Like, leave me alone. And I'm like just endless in terms of the minutia. Hey, dude, would you mind this hi-hat is, I mean,
that scenario, dealing with an engineer and saying like, hey, could you, maybe, bring the guitar up, or, maybe you should lower the hi-hat or the percussion. And you get like a snobby answer like, I'm I'm the producer, I'm the mixer, you should trust me.
I think there are definitely mix engineers that take a firmer stance against that kind of stuff than Chris does, is my point. So I guess he puts up with all my crap, and I appreciate that. So Chris, if you're listening, love you, dude.
Listen, if you go to a restaurant, they don't cook your steak right, you're gonna send it back. I mean, you're paying the bill at the end of the day, right?
I think it's foolish to have an artist spend as much time as we do tracking a song and working on it, and then that mix engineers feel like they can spend just a tiny bit of time on it and have you just go, oh, dude, perfection. You know, I mean, it's like
I'm just gonna put this filter on it. There you go. No, actually, let me ask you about that real quick. Is that something that might interest you? Because we were talking, Jeremy and I, about Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree, who does all the mixing and stuff now. Is that something that might interest you going down the road, getting into the studio and being the guy behind the desk, telling young bands, hey, do this, do that? I mean, do you want
maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, I definitely enjoy the art of engineering and producing, and so maybe. Although right now it wouldn't be the ideal call
time.
Yeah, not the ideal time. Yeah.
All right.
But maybe down the road, you never know. Like I said, sometimes life will surprise you. Go like, oh wow, I ended up doing this. I like that method where like you just get surprised by these things.
Yeah, well, because you look at Mick Jones from Foreigner, because you mentioned Foreigner, and there was a time there where he was doing Stormfront, he was doing 5150, he was in there, and it's just like, oh, maybe Joel will be the next Mick Jones.
You know, I mean that would be like lofty. That would exceed all expectations, man. You know, I'll take maybe a slightly more successful version of myself and be like, cool, good, we're solid.
Right. You'll be the next Jeff Pilson. All right, that's fine.
No, I mean that's lofty too, man. Jeff has had a hell of a career, man. I mean, you know, the Dokken career. So see, the thing is that guys years ago they sold millions of albums. When's that going to happen now? I mean, realistically, if you were a betting man, do you think this new album Running Games is going to sell millions of copies? You'd need to be completely insane to think that. Do
you go into the recording process with the intention of selling records, or is it just really a for fun thing for you? Is it a business venture to pay your bills, or is it for fun?
100% for artistic expression, man, and for like the legacy of my life, and to be known as somebody who had more than a guy who had a couple gigs. So you want to have artistic output in your life and leave behind things to be known for in your career, I guess, where you're like, it did this, milestones, right? So I mean, I do have instrumental albums that I put out years ago just under my name, Joel Hoekstra, and then this is the second one under this name, and obviously all the albums with the bands that I've been a part of with Night Ranger and Whitesnake, and I'm just trying to do something more than be like, wow, that guy, well, he just played gigs. Like, he had a lot of gigs, that guy.
I just got to say, since you mentioned Night Ranger, you did 24 strings and a drummer, the live and acoustic thing, and there's even a version of Boys of Summer on there. That is just a masterpiece, quote unquote, unplugged album. It's fucking fantastic.
Cool, man. That was
all I want to say. That's all I want to say.
I really enjoyed making that. I mean, I enjoyed that Night Ranger. We would play those acoustic shows fairly regularly, and that was a lot of fun. That we would have a different gig and like, hey, we're doing it acoustic this week. I like to play acoustic, as you know. So I mean, to have some of those gigs be that way, and it allowed us to hear our vocals a lot better. I'll tell you that much, man. You take the full kit and the amps out of there. It was like we started singing a lot better during those gigs. We'd be like, man, our harmonies are sounding good. Everybody's perfectly in tune. And
listen, when you're playing the tracks, everybody sounds great.
Never, thank God Night Ranger didn't do it. Whitesnake doesn't do it. Never been a part of that. So thank goodness.
Night Ranger is live. In fact, they were playing in Florida over the weekend, a big crowd, and I saw some video. They sounded great. I mean,
Yeah, great live band, man, for sure. For me, the Night Ranger albums back that they made back in the day were, because I think they had poppier producers. They kind of, there's no PC version. I just got to say, they wimped out the guitar tones a little bit back then, right?
Yeah.
So you listen to the rhythms, and they're not as tough as when you go to hear Night Ranger live now. Brad plays with that massive tone, and it's like, wow. So you go to hear them live, and the power of it and how hard it rocks usually is the thing that it sort of elevates it from those original recordings. I think, in my mind at least, that's how I would define hearing them live versus the record. So great live band, and they're super visual, man. Jack and Brad, I learned so much from those guys, having to hold down that area of the stage and my time with them. I mean, I was just getting my ass kicked on stage by Brad when I joined the band. We'd be together playing the double solos, and I'd have my guitar high, just staring at my neck, like you do when you're kind of a newbie. And then I'd look up, and the entire audience would be looking at Brad. He's looking out and doing all his crazy moves with it, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm just getting my ass kicked. I need to up my game here. So
and I'll finish on the Night Ranger thing real quick. First of all, the show on the weekend in Florida, Brad didn't show up, so it was Night Ranger with I guess 4 people or 1 down, which was kind of
wow. That's probably the first ever, right? A Night Ranger show without Brad Gillis. That's probably amazing.
So if you go to Facebook, you can type in Night Ranger and find posts from this past weekend, and there's no there's no Brad, and you're just like,
wow, that's amazing. I guess it's
Kelly stepped up.
What's the Spinal Tap line in this topsy turvy world of rock and roll? He's talking about carrying the cricket bat or whatever. I mean, I think that's just it's amazing the things you'll end up doing.
Jeremy, what you need to check out is on the Somewhere in California album from 2011.
I love that album. I was on the radio when that album came on. I was playing that song.
Right, but they there's a bonus track that they only put out for Amazon, Coming of Age. The Damn Yankees with them and Ted Nugent, and the guitar part there is just so fucking great. Anyway, I see his next interview is coming in.
I've got one coming in. I'm so sorry, guys.
That's all right.
All right, thank you, Joel.
Lots of fun. Total pleasure.
Thank you.
Cool, man.
I look forward to the horrible clickbait headline that comes from this, Mitch.
It won't be me. I don't do those.
Well, if Blabbermouth doesn't do it, I'll do it for us.
Awesome. Maybe we mutually agree on something really, really bad, Let's pull the worst thing we can from it, Maybe if I say something controversial out of context right now, we could just use that and...
Yeah, go for it. Just say something.
Anyway, yes, I have...
Thank you.
I have 3 months to live.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes,
there we go.
good.
Now we can say that. Now, if I do die in 3 months, that's going to be an amazing moment in rock history.
Oh my God.
Now go tweet that.
All right, guys.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Oh, all right, Jeremy. That was fun.
That was super fun. Joel's awesome, man. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And I apologize for my technical difficulties through the interview. I don't know what the heck's going on. Well, it's so funny. We joke about this all the time. I've got, even my voice is going now. So I've got, the lights. I've got the nice webcam. I've got the TVs. I got the whole set. I've got, $1,000 microphone and the boards and everything. And you just got a shitty blue Yeti sitting on your desk, and you sound
everybody.
You sound way better than I do. It's so annoying. Oh God.
When you buy a dishwasher or a washing machine, they always say buy the one with the less buttons, because when it breaks, it's cheaper to fix. And normally it doesn't break because there's less technology involved.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you need a new dishwasher.
I'm gonna have to dumb it down a little bit. I mean, it doesn't get dumber than a freaking Roadcaster. This thing's dumb as anything, but clearly you can tell by my sound.
Get a little headphone for like a call center headphone.
How do I sound right now?
To me, it's sounding muffled, but I don't
Sounds
know.
muffled, but how?
There.
I'm right in the mic. Do I sound better now?
Yeah.
Do I actually sound better now?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's me. It's not. It's just not coming in. Maybe it's not coming in. It's not coming in clear.
Let me turn off my my processing. How does this sound? Does this sound any better? Hello.
That sounds like a normal conversation to me.
Oh wow. Okay. So maybe I'll just keep my radio processing off it then.
That could be. Anyway, there we go.
How about if I move back a little bit? Can you hear me back here? Does it still sound normal, clear?
Can you hear me now? 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 Yeah.
Yeah. Checking for proper modulation. Check 1, 2.
Proper modulation.
Anyways, all right.
Checking for proper modulation.
So what's Joel's solo album called? Joel Hoekstra's 13?
It is called Joel Hoekstra's 13 Running Games, available in February from Frontiers Records.
Frontiers Records. Buy it now where music is sold.
Exactly.
That could be their jingle. I'll sell that to them.
There you go.